Welcome to the Insane Gorillas podcast. Today we have a special episode, or a special format we're going to be presenting this in. We're using YouTube Premiere for this because we weren't able to be live, so just don't worry about it. We'll be back on Twitch next week, and we might also have a special episode on Wednesday at 2 p.m. with Austin because he couldn't make it to this one. But make sure to stay in the chat, chat with me, because I will be in the chat with you guys. So feel free to chat, and talk amongst yourselves. So this week we are talking about a film called Mary and the Witch's Flower. It was my choice. It's by a group at Studio Ghibli. Is that what it is? Or Ghibli? Is that what it is?
It's not. This is not a Ghibli movie. It's done by a lot of staff that worked at Ghibli, but it's a studio called Studio KNOCK, which is like, I mean, I get in a way, it's like Ghibli-esque, but it's not really
By
a
them?
group at Ghibli. It's more like, it's more like a group from Ghibli.
Okay. It has a similar art style is what I mean. I thought it was by Studio Ghibli, but I'm wrong. I'm human, man.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's a common misconception.
Okay. Do you want to give a brief synopsis of the film or anything like that before we go? Should
Uh,
I?
I mean, yeah, sure. This was your recommendation this week, and I was really
Okay.
surprised because normally you don't pick anime, but um, I this okay. So this movie is like it's your typical Ghibli storyline. You have a young girl, and there's lots of magic and animals and a secret world and that whole thing. It's like that whole thing. It's like the if you're looking for the Ghibli like magical witch girl adventure thing. This is definitely that. Or at least it tries to be that. So I mean, that's not really a good synopsis, but I mean that's what it is.
Here, I'll give a little more of a synopsis. So this movie follows a young girl who has these weird dreams at the beginning that they never really touch on the rest of the movie. But she's kind of like
Hmm.
predicting the future. Uh, and it's about this girl. I like to call her the red-haired monkey because that's what the boy does, Peter. And I really think that name
Yeah.
catches on. Um, and she finds these flowers in the woods, and then they happen to have some sort of magical power. And then she also finds a broom after, and then smashes these flowers and somehow gains this power. And then what she finds like a Hogwarts for witches in the sky. Uh,
Yeah.
I found
She
it's
finds like a magic
yeah,
academy.
it's very similar. I thought like the beginning is it changes and goes off the rails a little bit, but it's very similar to like the Sorcerer's Stone from Harry Potter. Like just
Mm.
oh well, I might be a witch and stuff, or like it's got like a university and they're like the
Like a
prestigious
normal girl.
schools. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
like a normal person who's exposed to like a magical world, that whole thing, and then they find a secret magical school. Yeah, I could definitely see that connection there. Um, for me, this movie was kind of weird. Like this movie was kind of weird for me to watch because I knew going into it that it wasn't Studio Ghibli, but it was like meant to be similar to Studio Ghibli. I mean that's literally like that's the aesthetic it's trying to replicate, you know. Like the art style is essentially one to one. Um and I don't know, it kind of reminds me it definitely takes like elements from Kiki's Delivery Service and kind of The Secret World of Arietti, which are both Ghibli movies, which I'm pretty sure staff from this movie worked directly on both of those movies, or at least Arietti. I'm absolutely positive that staff members that worked on this movie in Studio Ponoc worked on Arietti. Um, and it's I don't know, it has a lot of similarities. But in that, I feel like that's kind of like a weakness of it because it's kind of trying to imitate Studio Ghibli and not really be its own thing, you know? Like it's kind of trying to imitate Studio Ghibli to like such a specific like like in such a specific way that I think it kind of misses the mark a little bit, you know? It doesn't really feel like a genuine Studio Ghibli movie because it's not. Um Even though it had like lots of staff work on it that worked on Studio Ghibli movies. Um
Yeah,
yeah.
I have that same inclination or idea of, yeah, this kind of seems like it would be a Studio Ghibli movie, but like it just seems so generic. Well, I don't know if
Right.
that's the right way to say it, but it seems generic. It seems like they just took ideas
It's like
from Studio
Ghibli but
Ghibli.
not.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's Ghibli but not. It's like it reminds me almost of like it reminds me of like let's say you have like a company or something, right? That's like really well known for this one type of thing or this general thing, right? And then you have like an offshoot or like members of that company who work on other things and it becomes similar, you know? It's kind of hard to explain, but like I'm trying to think of a really good example. Um unfortunately, I'm really blanking right now, but you know, it's a thing that happens certainly. Um, but I don't know. I didn't hate it. I mean, I did. I didn't hate it. I didn't dislike it. I mean, I disliked aspects of it, but
well,
um, I
I
didn't.
think overall it was a fun story. It was a fun
Yeah,
story, but
yeah.
the way they did it, I like the animation a lot. My favorite character is actually it's the is it it's Finnegan. Finnegan or Finnegan? I think it's Finnegan.
Flanagan.
Flanagan. That's it.
Yeah,
I'm really
yeah.
bad with names. So Flanagan was my all-time favorite character, I think, out of this. Even though he's only in the movie for like a little bit. It's just I don't know why. I
Yeah,
just
he's
really
only in
like
there a
how he
little bit.
looks. I like how he looks. I like the acting for him is really good, which surprised me because this has Kate
Oh, the voice
Winslet.
acting in general.
It's got Kate Winslet in it. It's got a couple really big high name actors, and then Flanagan I don't think is one of them. He just happens to steal the show in my case. But I do like
He's just
the
kind of in it for a little bit. Yeah.
yeah.
That's the thing. I don't know. Like this is the thing that like Disney and I don't know if Disney licensed this movie. I think it was probably Netflix or yeah, it was probably Netflix who licensed it and brought it to the West. That's what I'm assuming. But when these companies like bring over Ghibli movies, they think that people will not watch them unless they have big names as voice actors, which to some extent is true. Like especially like in the past, I mean, nowadays you're definitely gonna pull in a big audience of people who like to watch it just because it's anime or just because it's Studio Ghibli, whatever. But so they kind of do this thing where they put on a bunch of really popular actors as voice actors, you know, just to pull people in to watch it. And they definitely did that with this one too. I think to some extent, like you said with Kate Winslet. Um, but you know, I really the voice acting was good though. The voice acting was good in this movie. I think it was pretty good. Um, it felt like it felt very genuine. You know, it's not like that awkward type of weird like stuff you see a lot in '90s English dubs of anime, where it's like that they aren't changing the dialogue to fit up with the way English would actually sound. It's not really like that. So I think that like, I guess that kind of brings me to like the point I wanted to make about this movie having really good like visuals, sound effects, music, voice acting, you know, art, backgrounds, character design, all of that stuff is like top notch in this movie. You know, like it really is like top notch. Um,
I think it's very colorful. It's like it's very it's not bland, but it's a little more boring until you get to like the actual school, and then you see all these colors and all these weird creatures, and I think that really brings the magic into the movie. And
mhm.
so like it suddenly changes to this, oh, we're going from just green and maybe like a couple like brick houses and stuff to a full
Yeah.
on giant color explosion like a rainbow effect. It's just all this magic in this one little area, It really kind of brings that
Well,
magical
every
feeling. Go ahead.
every scene with magic in this movie, like every single one, or I guess yeah, pretty much every scene with magic in this movie, it looks like really good, you know, like really well done. Like you said, really colorful, really creative. Um, and there are a lot of good ideas. There are a lot of really creative ideas that I think this movie goes for, but it almost feels like it's doing a checklist. You know, like story wise, it almost feels like it's doing a checklist of okay, so how similar can we make this to Studio Ghibli? We have the art style, check, or and then or that everything from like ranging from like stuff like vague stuff like that, or I guess general stuff like that to like very specific things like okay, so we're gonna have a black cat that or some kind of animal that leads this character to this like other world, like or like to some magical thing. Like there's a lot of that, and like that's kind of like a Studio Ghibli trope. And I think it's almost like it takes a lot of Studio Ghibli tropes and kind of throws them together. So that kind of made me feel a little bit weird. I think this movie also gets a little bit, I don't want to say darker, because Studio Ghibli movies can actually be really dark. But the way the story is actually told, especially towards the end, like the first half of the movie is told very like Ghibli-like,
It's very happy-go-lucky.
Well, yeah, I mean, Ghibli movies aren't really necessarily about being happy, because, I mean, there are some Ghibli movies which are, like, heart-wrenchingly sad, and some even depressing, like Grave of the Fireflies. But, the second half of the movie is not structured like a Studio Ghibli movie. It's kind of, I mean, it's different, it's something different that it does. I don't know, it's a little bit weird. Like, usually, this is something I noticed. In Studio Ghibli movies, the antagonist isn't really an antagonist. Like they are, but they kind of come around in the end. Like they come around and it's like, oh, they're actually a good person. That happens a lot. But that happens in this one too. Actually, I actually just realized that it happens with the doctor, but it feels kind of forced with the professor lady. I mean, was it just me, or did it not feel kind of forced when it's like she's kind of acting coy and deceptive this whole time, and then she comes around, and then like she's
suddenly the good guy.
All of a sudden, she's like, "No, Mary," like caring for her.
Yeah, it was kind of I think out of the blue, because she's like the evil one. She's like, I need this power and stuff. But also, I do want to compare this movie to like the ending is similar to. The ending is similar to the movie
Sorry,
Metropolis.
I think it got disconnected a little bit. I'm gonna have to try to connect again real quick.
Okay. Well, we did a podcast over Metropolis, and that I think the ending was pretty similar to what this one was.
Okay.
So.
Oh wait, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I could hear you the whole time.
Oh, okay. Well, that's kind of embarrassing, but
Can I? So I thought the ending of this one was similar to the movie Metropolis, where like the Peter, like the supposed kind of good guy, turns into a bad guy, but then gets kind of turned into a good guy by the end, because it wasn't really what is it? I just thought it was very similar to Metropolis, the ending for the anime one, not the original one.
I can see that. I don't know. It's kind of I guess that's kind of an anime thing. Like, that's in general just an anime trope, that kind of thing happening. I don't know. I kind of feel like this movie was like average in like a lot of ways. Like it was good. It was good art wise, but I feel like as a movie, it was just kind of average. That's kind of what I felt like. Or maybe a little bit better than average. Like, story-wise, I'd say it's average. But then I think the animation is beautiful, and I think that kind of bumps it up a notch, Like, it doesn't do anything offensively bad. So, it kind of makes me think, like, okay, this movie is, like, I don't know. It just made me feel like there wasn't much to say about it, Like, it felt kind of bland and kind of generic in a way,
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell there's parts where there's a lot of love put into it, but...
Yeah, I think some of the characters are pretty flat. Such as Peter.
Yeah.
Peter comes in and they make him out to be this kind of big character, but he only shows up for a little bit. He's just rides in on his bicycle in a couple of scenes at the beginning, and then he ends up being a big character at the end for some reason. Um,
Yeah. They try to make it a lot more emotional there. Like they try to stress that relationship a lot more than seems natural, I think.
yeah, which is pretty hard when you have some flat characters. It's hard to get emotionally attached to characters like that, especially that's what
Yeah.
some TV series have over movies is that you can't. It's hard to gain a attachment to characters in like an hour and a half compared to over the course of like a 9 hour TV series. And that's
Hmm.
where you kind of develop a connection. But I think the main way you develop connection is find similarities in the audience you're going for. But I don't see
Hmm.
I don't see a lot of personality in some of these characters. Like, yeah, you
Yeah,
have
no.
Kate Winslet's the madam. She turns out to be the
A
bad guy.
cutout.
Yeah, and the scientist,
Yeah.
another one, just basically exactly like the madam. There's no
They're like caricatures. They're
yeah,
caricatures, you know.
like at least have some sort of difference between the two. Have the scientist wants to study the whole thing, and have the madam just wants all power. She just wants all this power. Make them kind of fight against each other. Have some sort of personality in these characters. Mary, even the main character Mary, or the red-haired monkey, she doesn't have a lot of personality. I feel like the grandma has a little more personality than the main
Yeah.
character. And even Flanagan has more personality than the main
Well,
character.
I don't know. I don't know about that. I think that they had something good going with her, with Mary. I think that she had I think at the beginning she had they were setting up something interesting with her like like with she has this kind of altruistic nature where she tries to help people. She tries to be helpful, but it always backfires on her, you know? Like she has bad luck. I thought that was really well done at first, but they didn't really come around with it. You know, they didn't really come back around with it. But one thing I did like actually, this reminds me, there was one thing I really liked story wise about this movie. Um, and that was I kind of liked a part of the ending, you know. Just like the final part, I guess. It was sometimes you just need a happy, wholesome, you know, kind of ending that makes you feel good. I think it did that a little bit. Not it's not as like cathartic as like a bona fide like you know Ghibli movie that like it's trying to be, but it certainly I think gets a little something in there. Like I when I got to the end, I was like, all right, you know, I'll give you that much. Like you know, you got me a little bit there at the end. Um,
Yeah,
and I kind of like how she learns how she doesn't like need magic, but yeah.
I feel the same. I think the ending is one of the better like parts of the storytelling in the whole movie. I just like it's just a sweet finish. It's just a nice little chef's kiss at the end. Um, so what is it? There was another. I had a theory about Mary in general because at one point you see this broom. The broom runs out of battery when she's like trying to travel to back to the island after she finds her grandma's old house that's all magical and stuff, and finds out yeah she's related to a witch. I feel like Mary actually does have some magical powers and she used them there. That's just like a
Hmm.
theory because that broom was straight up dead. It was not coming back. And she didn't end up smashing the flower again and gaining all that power back. But it just suddenly comes back to life as if she gave it some power. But like I think the magic in this movie works through emotions. So I don't. There are
Yeah.
many times where stories follow like a witch or something, and usually it's either like potion making or they use like their emotion or like a wand or something. I feel like for this movie, emotions is what pushes magic and kind of gains you power. And I think Mary did have that
Well,
magical power. She just chose not to use it at the end. Like she was like done with it.
yeah, I mean, I guess I could see that a little bit, but I don't know. In this world, it's like magic and science are essentially the same. you know, which I kind of thought was interesting. Like magic in this world, magic and science are like they're interconnected. So that's like an interesting magic system. Um, but I don't know. I kind of see that whole aspect of oh the magic is fueled by emotions, right? It's like it's kind of I don't know. It's kind of corny in the context of this movie. I think, like, I thought it was like they do hint on it a little bit, but I don't know. It's kind of predictable. I'm like, okay, so her magic is reliant on this flower. So obviously, there's going to be a point when the flower's she's not going to be able to use the flower, and she's going to have to like rely on her inner power of friendship or whatever it was, and she kind of did. But I did like how it wasn't like I don't know. I did like how it didn't just overtly show it like, oh wow, she's super powerful now or whatever. It's like she got to the place, she got to the magic place, and she kind of brought back aspects from previous parts of the movie, like with the animals that the doctor guy experimented on. I kind of liked that. I like how it brought that back instead of it kind of subverted a little bit what I was expecting there.
Yeah, what is it? Also, during that scene, you kind of see a lot of like, what is it? Yeah, it does connect back to like the original story, but I want to go back to where you said science and magic is sort of connected, and they clearly kind of talk about this as like they describe their potion making class, whereas like in Harry Potter they say, oh well, it's just like potion making. It's just a potion making class. In the movie, in this anime, they say it's chemistry, basically saying that it's more scientific
Right.
than magic. And I, they kind of touch on it a little more as like the scientists. They, do they touch on it even more than that? Are there moments where they do that? Like they say that it's
Well, they
science more than magic. They had one other
yeah
moment.
yeah yeah. It was with electricity because they're like,
Oh
oh
yeah.
well, electricity is just a form of magic. So it makes me think, okay, so energy, right? Energy as we know it, right, is a form of magic in this world, which like is an interesting idea. It makes sense, right? Because energy is everything, it's in everything and it is everything. So it's like yeah, I can kind of see that how like something as transformative and fantastical as magic could be based in energy. I could see that. I thought that was really interesting. But other than that, they don't really touch on it. It's just I kind of thought it was interesting how how they're tied together. But I think what really keeps this movie afloat, like if I'm being completely honest, the thing that allowed me to not be completely bored and finish this movie was just the scenes where they're doing magic, the scenes where they're doing things where there's action and movement. Those were like really well done, really well animated. The whole movie is really well animated, but it's just those specific parts that I think kind of grabbed my attention.
Yeah, I think what caught my attention was kind of the visuals, such as like when she smashes the flower, the light that comes from it is like that. Those effects, I really like that. But the visuals is what really
Mm-hmm.
kind of helps this movie, and like pushes it along, and it makes you want to keep watching because you want to see what they're gonna do with these visual effects. Um,
Yeah.
well, the story does it's pretty good to an extent. It's very generic. It's very much like a Studio Ghibli movie where it's kind of
It,
happy, kind of sad, then a happy ending at the
well,
end, kind of. Or not a happy
I
ending because
wouldn't
that's
say
not with
that's.
every
It's like
Studio Ghibli movie.
well, no, it's more like a Studio Ghibli general template that it follows, like barring some exceptions. So like that's like Studio Ghibli, their movies, especially okay. Well, you kind of have to split them into a couple categories when we're talking about Studio Ghibli, because you have movies by Hayao Miyazaki, and you have movies by Isao Takahata, and you have movies by Goro Miyazaki, and you have one movie by you have one more movie which is Whisper of the Heart by I forget the guy's name. He only directed one movie, but they all have different styles essentially. They have very different styles, and they have very different intentions with their work. So like Isao Takahata, he did Grave of the Fireflies, he did The Tale of Princess Kaguya, he did My Neighbors the Yamadas. Um, his movies tend to have a more tragic story to them. They tend to have a more, you know, it's more nuanced, I guess, in a way. It doesn't. It's not really as. Oh, he also did Only Yesterday, but his movies, they aren't as like overtly fantastical as Hayao Miyazaki's movies, right? So with something directed by Isao Takahata, you're gonna get like, you know, something that's a little bit less fantastical and more so about the really, really, really little details. But with Hayao Miyazaki, it's like there is that subtlety, there is that nuance, but it's really a lot of the time. Most of it's like about the fantasy and the thematic power of what he's trying to show you. You know, like with like Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, um, you know, just Princess Mononoke, Castle in the Sky. All of those, they're very fantastical. You know, they use the fantasy element of their stories to get across these themes. Um, you know, this movie doesn't really have that distinct feel. You know, it doesn't feel like there was a director who said, I want this to happen. I think this is, you know, this will come back around in the end, and this is what we're trying to go for. This is the meaning, you know, this is what we're trying to achieve. It feels like they're kind of like, oh, well, you know, we've worked on a lot of Studio Ghibli movies, so let's take this worked in this movie. This worked in this movie. You know, people like it when we draw food, or people like it the way that we, you know, animate water. And they're like, so let's take that. Let's put that in there. You know, oh, well, people, the way that Studio Ghibli draws faces is iconic. So, you know, the characters will be drawn just like that. It feels like if a robot or like an AI was like, hey, give me a Studio Ghibli template, and they'd be like, oh, okay, here's what the things that people recognize Studio Ghibli for, so here's what we're gonna put it as. That's kind of what it feels like, you know.
Yeah.
So in a way, it doesn't really feel genuine. It almost feels like I really don't want to use the term knockoff, because there's obviously really talented animators, really talented people working on this movie. You know, there's undeniably amazing talent working on this movie, and they've done amazing things, especially the visuals of this movie. But it is obviously trying to be that. It is trying to be the Studio Ghibli, you know, young girl adventure, magical story adventure thing, which it doesn't really capture. You know, it doesn't have its own identity. With something like Kiki's Delivery Service, you have this story about this girl and you know, learning about independence and finding her way in the world. And you know, in The Secret World of Arrietty, which is like another one that I think this movie takes a lot of obvious influence on, you have like this secret world, this young girl in this secret world, and this, you know, this mysterious land that's really kind of related to our world. Like, it's a very similar thing. Sorry for the rant. It's just that that's kind of what comes across in my mind.
Well, I found it similar. I haven't seen too many Studio Ghibli movies, but
Oh wait, I can't hear you. Hold on, I'm gonna put in my regular headphones.
Okay.
That way I can hear you better. Sorry, 1 second.
Okay, let's sit in silence. Okay, can you hear me now?
Okay, can you hear me all right?
Yep, I can hear you. One of the movies that, like, it brought. I haven't seen too many Studio Ghibli movies, so it reminded me of Castle in the Sky, especially. But that's just because I think, like, all the scenes where they're flying through the sky and stuff, because there are a lot of those as she travels back and forth and from the school to that. But also the fact that literally the school looks like it's just a castle floating in the sky. It's on island.
No. It's definitely like a callback to that. Like it's like, I think that's like a little bit of a reference to that and Howl's Moving Castle. Maybe even more so Howl's Moving Castle, because you see like the mechanical aspect of it, and it's like, oh, okay, so it's like a floating, fortress, or like a moving fortress in the sky, or a moving fortress, that's mechanical or whatever. Um, but that also kind of brings me to another thing. Is I think a flaw that this movie has is that or a disadvantage that this movie has compared to other Studio Ghibli movies. And I say that almost as if like I'm saying that this is a Studio Ghibli movie, but it's not. But a disadvantage this has is that it explains its magic. You know, if you watch a Hayao Miyazaki, especially a Hayao Miyazaki Studio Ghibli film, the magic and the fantasy of it is not really explained. It's implied. You kind of like things happen and you kind of just go, oh well, that's interesting. I kind of wonder about that, and in feeling that wonder, that's kind of the intention, is to make you feel that mysterious feeling. And this movie's kind of like, a lot of the time it can be like, oh well, this is how it is. This is the way it is. Like, we're just telling you that's how it is, which is like kind of boring and kind of defeats the purpose. I don't know. I just feel like there's not. I don't know. When I think about this movie, it's like nothing really comes in my mind that I can think of to say. It feels kind of like it just feels kind of like like I said earlier, like a Studio Ghibli movie, but not. Like for example, well, there are bad Studio Ghibli movies. Like, don't get me wrong, there are a few bad Studio Ghibli movies, like Tales from Earthsea, or Ocean Waves, were both pretty poor Studio Ghibli movies. And I think I would actually recommend this movie. I would recommend this movie over those movies, over Tales from Earthsea and over Ocean Waves. Um, so I mean, I guess it's that. I guess it gets that credit. I guess you could, if you wanted to, you could say that Mary and the Witch's Flower is a better Ghibli film than the two worst Ghibli films, if you really wanted to. But that's kind of unrelated. It's kind of stupid. Whatever. But I don't know. Like, if I'm thinking in my head, right? I'm thinking I want to watch a Ghibli movie, or I want to feel, that very specific type of experience that only Studio Ghibli can give you. I'm not gonna think, oh, Mary and the Witch's Flower. Like, if it was a good movie, maybe. Like, if it was a super super good movie, maybe I would think that. Maybe I'd be like, oh, yeah, this is a really good movie that's similar. It kind of stands on its own. But I think it really doesn't. So if I'm looking for that type of feeling, I'm just gonna be like, all right, time to rewatch Howl's Moving Castle. Time to rewatch Porco Rosso. Time to rewatch Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind. Because there's so many good ones. It just doesn't have it. This movie suffers from not having its own identity, like, really at all. It has good animation, has good, there's lots of good aspects to it, but it doesn't. It's not its own movie.
Yeah, I feel like it stole some ideas from other movies and just tried to make it work with this really good, like, animation. But just from looking at if I was searching through Netflix and then I found this movie, and I was like, ooh, that looks like a Studio Ghibli film. Might do a podcast over that. And then
Yeah.
you find out that it's not, and you kind of get a little disappointed. But overall, I don't think it's a terrible movie. I think
No,
it's
it's not
good.
terrible.
It's good. It has good aspects, but that are enjoyable, such as like the color, the animation, and some parts of the story. But it's just, we're very big on like the story being like really good, and that's we beat down movies just because the story's not that great. Where I think this story is okay. It's fine, but I wouldn't watch it mainly for the story. I'd watch it for the animation and the visual effects more than I would the
Yeah.
story.
Well, this movie kind of reminds me of another movie that I watched that, well, there are a lot of movies. It's almost like there are lots of movies that are like Ghibli bait, Like, it's like like people are the studios are deliberately making you think that it's like a Ghibli movie, you know? Um, but this movie kind of reminds me a little bit of this one movie I watched a couple of years ago called Children Who Chase Lost Voices. Um, and it's actually, I'm pretty sure it's directed by Makoto Shinkai, who's like one of the best like upcoming.
Hello? I think we lost him. Ty? Okay.
Oh, sorry. Did you hear me? Did you hear me?
I did not hear you. You kind of broke off after saying the name of the
Okay.
director or the guy who worked on it.
Oh, okay. So Makoto Shinkai, he directed Your Name, which is a really, really fantastic movie. And he also directed this movie that I just mentioned, Children Who Chase Lost Voices. I remember liking that movie a lot. But I do remember like it was like one of those like movies that's very similar to Studio Ghibli, like intentionally. Um, I don't know, um, but I don't know. I just feel like there's not a lot to say really. Like it's just kind of all right. It doesn't stick in my mind. Like I'm gonna forget. I know I'm gonna forget this movie. I know I'm gonna forget it. And I don't hate it. I don't think it's terrible. I'm just gonna forget it. It's not gonna stick out of my head.
Yeah, it's not super memorable. Um, it's, as we said multiple times, very generic, and it's hard to pick pieces that, I don't know how I want to say this, but it's hard to try to remember some of the scenes just because it doesn't compare to some of the other Studio Ghibli movies like Castle in the Sky, My Neighbor Totoro. There's so many different picks over this one. Even though we keep comparing it to Studio Ghibli, it's not a Studio Ghibli film. Um,
No,
it's it it kind of doesn't create uh, great characters, and the characters is what moves the story along. Like
mm,
like you have so many good characters in Studio Ghibli films that like they all have specific personalities and actions that would go with the character. In this one, you kind of just feel like Mary doesn't seem like the main character in the story. She doesn't always
no,
seem like the main character. Sometimes it seems like a side character is the main character. Maybe even Peter sometimes is the main character, and he's only in the movie for probably like 10, 15 minutes. But you don't always feel like she's the main character.
hmm she doesn't have a lot of presence really.
She gets lost.
Um, yeah. Um, I don't know. Like watching this movie just makes me like it gives me an urge to like talk about just like really good movies that are like not Studio Ghibli movies, but are also like family movies, like like Japanese family movies that are really good. Because there are like like a lot of I don't know if you've heard of Mamoru Hosoda. Have you heard of him, Matt?
No, no, I don't know anime too
He's
well.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Um, but he made this really good movie called Wolf Children. Um, it's kind of weird at first. You're like, all right, this is kind of weird, but it's such a good movie. He also made The Boy and the Beast. He made Mirai. He made I don't know. He made lots of good stuff. But there are other. I guess what I'm getting to is that there are good alternatives for movies that are like good in the same way, like not in the same way that Studio Ghibli movies are, but like that are good in the sense that they're not like Berserk, like where like we had last week, where it's like super mature, but like where it's like I don't know, like family friendly, but fantastical type of that whole realm. I guess is what I'm trying to say. There are good alternatives to that.
Yeah, I when I think of anime, I don't always. I kind of think Studio Ghibli is the main one that makes those family movies. Although I know there are many different other companies and directors and creators that make more family style anime type movies. But that's not usually what comes to my mind. I usually think like of the more grisly ones. I think more importantly, I think of Berserk. I think of Death Note. Even though Death Note isn't too grisly sometimes, just the premise of the anime is just kind of dark. But I usually think of dark
Yeah.
animes. So
I mean, I don't know. I see it both ways, right? I like a wide variety of things when it comes to anime. So like, I like your more darker, serious stuff, like your Berserks, your Akiras, your fucking Jinros, and that type of shit. your Devilmans, Evangelions, all that shit. But I also like the lighthearted stuff. And I also like the political stuff, like Legend of the Galactic Heroes, which is my favorite anime, like ever, like period. Legend of the Galactic Heroes is like literally the fucking best shit ever. But, something that I also really don't like about anime,
What?
or in general, I don't find anime comedy funny at all. Like hardly ever. Like I very rarely find anime comedy funny at all. Like there are a couple instances that I can think of. Um, one of them is because one of them is like unintentional, and then but the only. Okay, well, I'm not saying that anime isn't funny, right? Because there are funny anime, certainly. Um, but most anime I watch, even some of my favorites, like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which is a great, great story, like one of the best anime I think ever created. I think most people have seen it, would agree on that. But its humor is just completely lost on me. Like the comedy is just completely lost. I don't, and it's not. I don't find it funny. But one anime that I think is really funny is Golden Boy. If you haven't seen Golden Boy, um, that's a great anime. It's 6 episodes long. You can watch it on YouTube. Anyone who hasn't seen Golden Boy, please watch it. It is the funniest shit ever. Like it is so good. It is so good. It is aged like fine wine, and that's coming from someone who vehemently dislikes anime comedy. Like I'm an anime fan, but it's something that you become immune to. The only the only two I can think of that I genuinely like, that I genuinely think is like funny, like actually funny, is Golden Boy, and Great Teacher Onizuka. Um, I would say JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but JoJo's has kind of been ruined for me. Like I don't know. Like I think that it's a good series. I'll never say that it's a bad series because of the fan base. I'll never say that. But I can't find any of the jokes or the parts of JoJo that are funny anymore, because they've been like ruined. They've been ruined by like overexposure. I can't, it's like you can't unsee it. You can't unhear it. You've seen it and heard it so many times in so many various contexts that you just can't even fathom hearing it anymore. It's like it makes you like uncomfortable. That's kind of what happened with JoJo. I think that's kind of what happened with JoJo and like everyone. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking out of my ass here. That's just personally my experience.
Isn't JoJo's comedy kind of based on just the randomness?
I mean, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's kind of bizarre. No pun intended. Um, but it is very bizarre. It's a bizarre series, and it's kind of odd and random, and um, basically it's like it's very. I don't know if it is unintentional, but it comes off as very unintentionally funny. But on top of that, it also has a pretty good story, like unironically. So I think that's the thing that draws a lot of people to JoJo. Um, I used to be a huge JoJo fan, like a huge JoJo fan. Like that was one of the anime that got me into anime in general. Was JoJo. It wasn't my first, but it was like for me that was like the stepping stone, like into like more stuff. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just an asshole because I only like not only like serious stuff, but like I'm just not a comedy guy. I'm not a comedy guy in general. So like even good comedy is like I'm like, okay, this is good, but it's just not for me. So when I hear it in an anime and it's like really bad, just kind of fucking juvenile comedy, I'm just like, all right, I don't care. Like I less than care right now. Like I just want this to be over. That's how I feel about it. And keep in mind, I'm a huge anime fan. I've seen many hundreds of anime, like literally hundreds of anime. I've spent thousands of hours watching anime, but it's not I don't know. It's just the comedy is almost completely lost on me. Um, outside of very specific, like there are series that are like I don't know. I guess I'm talking specifically about serialized TV anime, like your I don't know. That's like like the stuff you see in a lot of shonen, the stuff you see in a lot of TV anime. That kind of comedy just is completely lost on me. But like there are moments of Studio Ghibli movies that I think are really funny. there are moments in quite a few like manga that I think are funny that I've read, and obviously it's like, well, oh, anime and manga. It's like a lot of anime are just adaptations of manga. It's like, well, yeah, sure, but like, I don't know. I don't know. We'll get that. That'll just lead into the whole discussion of things getting adapted and if they need to be adapted and all that bullshit. But you know,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Trying to think of one I want to talk about because we've hit almost all the points I've been thinking of. But yeah, I think the visuals in this movie are what really pushes it. I know I've said that multiple times.
Oh, you know what? You know what?
What?
I just thought of a couple more anime that I am a sinner for not pointing out that are funny. Okay, like they're absolutely pertinent in terms of funny, in terms of how the funny goes. Mob Psycho 100, very funny series, must watch. Um, Also, Welcome to the NHK is also one that's pretty funny, but it's also really depressing. So I mean, watch at your own risk, I guess. I just had to mention that because those are two anime that are actually really funny. And another one, Sorry, Girls Last Tour is also pretty funny.
Okay. I don't know.
And Tokyo Godfathers.
I've heard of
Tokyo
Tokyo
Godfathers.
Godfathers.
Have you seen it?
No, I haven't, but I've heard of it. That's the only one
Okay.
I've heard of that you've just said.
Hmm.
I don't know. Is there too much to talk about this, or is there anything else to talk about?
No, I really don't think there is.
I think this is just gonna be a short episode.
Yeah, I think it's gonna have to be because this movie is so like it's just so painfully average that it's just like what do I say? You know, it's like I can't think of anything. It's so like it's not bad. It's not great. It's not it's not the worst.
It's not
Yeah.
the greatest anime like Studio Ghibli type thing, but it's not. It beats a few of them, but it's not that great. It's really average. It's kind of bland. Usually, you want in like a movie to have like these characters that are really well developed and stuff, and this is what this movie suffers from. There's nothing really to talk about because when you talk about movies, you talk about characters. And the characters usually push the story along, not the story itself pushes the characters along, which is kind of what happens in this. No, it's more the cats. The cats push the story along. That's Tib and Gib. They push the story along.
Yeah.
So there's not much to talk about because it's average. It does a few things right, but overall it kind of misses the point.
I mean, we could go on to give it a rating, I guess. I
Yeah.
mean, I can kind of. I'll go. Okay, so I mean, there's some things I want to talk about after this. I guess I kind of feel like going on a little ramble, about some fucking shit. But so anyway, for this movie, right, I give it a 6 out of 10. I would give it a 5 out of 10 if the art wasn't so great. So for me, it's like. It's a little bit above a 5, but it's a little bit above average because the art direction and animation is so good and the music is so good and such and such. But yeah, I'm going with a 6, a solid 6.
Yeah, I'm kind of around where you are. I'd say a 5 more so, just because some of the things just don't like the voice acting. I felt like you didn't have to have these big names as voice actors for this film because they don't really help it. We barely. I don't even like. I didn't know Kate Winslet was voicing the character Madame or Madame until I actually looked up the movie. The only person I could recognize was the person voicing the scientist, and he plays the chair in Harry Potter. That's not his name. He comes in like late in the series, but I don't know his name, the actor's name. But you don't recognize any of the voices, so why would you not just pick actors that aren't super well known that can actually act well and kind of think of what these characters can be and how they can use their voice to more so what I'm saying is get voice actors over regular actors because they had gotten Kate
Mm-hmm.
Winslet, who is a actual like physical actor, she uses her body language and stuff to act. But voice actors, the struggle is that voice actors have to make a character using just their voice, and then that's how they kind of develop a character. Um, so I'd give it like a 5. The
Uh,
story kind of is a little, it's not really great. The animation is really
it's
great.
just.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say about the thing you said about voice actors. I don't have a problem with actors being voice actors. Like I don't think that's a thing. I don't think that's a problem at all. I don't think that's a flaw against the movie either. So, but I think that I just think that it's a marketing ploy. It's a marketing trick, which is kind of I feel like is disingenuous. It's like, oh, okay, so they're doing this for marketing, not because it's the best person for the role. And it's like, yeah, basically that's what they're doing. And so it feels like a knock against the movie, but really, in my opinion, it shouldn't be because I thought the voice acting was good, and I don't really care who portrays a movie character, who portrays a character, unless they if they're doing it well. I just think that it's quite obviously like, okay, how are we going to get people to watch this? Well, some people are fans of Studio Ghibli, so the people who are fans of Studio Ghibli will watch it. It's like, okay, so how do we get more people to watch it? I don't know. Who's a celebrity? I guess Kate Winslet. Will she work? It's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I guess Kate Winslet will work. Yeah, let's use that in the advertising. That's what it feels like. Now, of course, it could be a different story. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure I'm sure there's a story how they met, but I mean, um, or I guess how the director kind of came to that decision, the ADR director or whoever. But I don't know. It kind of reminds me of for The Wind Rises, which was Hayao Miyazaki's last film before the one. He's making another one, which is supposed to be his last, but it's like he's gone into retirement like a shit ton of times at this point and come out to make another movie. But when he was making The Wind Rises, he had the director of Evangelion, Hideaki Anno. He had him play the main character, and it makes you think like, wow, well that's kind of weird to think of this guy who's like a director, who's like a really famous director of anime, playing this character. I don't know. That just kind of makes me think of that a little bit.
So was there anything else you want to touch on, like why your rating was that way? I don't have too much to say about the ratings or anything.
No, I think it's pretty solid on the rating.
Yeah, I gave it a 5. You gave it a 6. Let's go ahead and get into recommendations real quick. So
Yeah, sure.
next week is your pick. Sunday we'll be back on Twitch. Twitch.tv/The Insane Gorillas with 2 Z's, no spaces. And I'm gonna go ahead. I think I'm gonna recommend the. I don't know. I didn't watch too much this week. I watched this. I recommend this movie to some people. I think the animation is just overall really good. I think the story is a little bit lacking, but if you want to try to get into some anime, this might be a way. If you're new, it's pretty westernized.
Nope. Disregard.
Disregard.
Wait, no. Are you talking about your recommendation? Are you talking about your wait? Are you talking about your recommendation or this movie?
Yeah, I was recommending this movie. I don't think it's a waste of time. I think it's pretty average.
Okay.
I wouldn't.
All right. I'm gonna disagree with your point.
It's a really westernized animation or anime. It's really westernized. I can't think of anything else I want to recommend. I just can't think.
Well,
I haven't watched too many movies this week.
Okay, it's your recommendation, so I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. But if you are looking to get into anime, that's good. That's not, I recommend not watching something average. Watch something great. Watch watch Porco Rosso. Watch any Studio Ghibli movie. Watch any fucking, I don't know. If you're an older person, you can watch you can get into Ghost in the Shell or Akira or fucking Legend of Galactic Heroes or fucking Jinro or I don't know. It just don't. If you want to watch something good, that will grab your attention and that will make you like anime. Okay, don't watch this because you'll forget about it. Okay, so just don't.
Okay, I'm not
that's my counter recommendation.
I don't
That's
know
okay.
anime
Nobody
very well.
is. Nobody is. Nobody is. If you're an anime professional, I mean like I don't mean like someone who works in anime. I mean like if you're like if you consider yourself to be the anime professional, then you should probably stop, you know. If you think you're the anime authority, you're probably not. But
I do feel
and of
like
course,
though, this movie is like you could find an audience for it. I think some people will enjoy this.
yeah, I agree. I
So
think I think there's an audience for it. Yeah.
it's
I
better
realize
than
I probably
Gretel and
said some.
Hansel. It's
It definitely is Gretel and Hansel. I feel like I said something kind of rude. I don't know. I feel like I might be being a little bit of a dick right now.
no, it's fine.
But
I'm not
I
hurt.
just kind of I don't know. I don't want people to be like, okay, this is watch this and be like, okay, this is anime. All right, this is kind of average. I'm out. This kind of mid. I'm out. And I'll be like, oh no, no, no! I swear there's more. I swear there's better than this.
The
But
only thing I
I don't
think
know.
about this movie is that some people don't like those full anime things where it goes into like all those. It's just some animes can be a little too much for new people.
Yeah,
I think
I'd say a lot can honestly.
like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure might be a little too much for some people. I
Yeah.
think Attack on Titan's a good way to start. Death Note's a
Mhm.
good way to start. Just not even
Something
like
entry level.
shonen stuff like Naruto, Dragon Ball. Those are good.
Well,
ways
those
to
series
start.
are technically like Attack on Titan technically is a shonen. So is Death Note.
Is it?
Um,
I thought shonen.
yeah, yeah, they both are. Like shonen is like okay, so it's kind of difficult to explain, but it's like targeted towards a demographic of like younger boys, right? That's like what the word shonen literally means like boy, but it's like some shonen are less shonen than other shonen, if that makes any sense at all. So like you have some shonen which are just like your Black Clovers, your Naruto's, your Bleaches, which are like they have a little bit of dark stuff in them, or maybe even a lot of dark stuff in them, but it's like they have a certain formula. So when people are talking about shonen, they're really more so referring to the formula. But then you have something that's like you have some stuff that's shonen, like shonen in terms of like its classification, its demographic that's shonen. Um, but it's really dark, like something like Death Note or Attack on Titan or even Hunter x Hunter. The later parts of Hunter x Hunter are like much more similar to a seinen series, which is like a series aimed at young adults, adult men. So it's really more of a spectrum instead of a just like, oh, this is shonen, this is for kids. It's not really like that. It's more like, okay, this is shonen, so it has like certain tropes and certain things and certain formulas that it follows, but it also might be like a different, take on it. Like for example, Hunter x Hunter is a shonen. It is, but it's a deconstruction of the shonen genre. It's like an author saying, it's the author literally going like, okay, I'm gonna take everything that makes shonen good, and then I'm gonna like exaggerate it, and I'm gonna rework it, I'm gonna deconstruct it. That's kind of but it's at the same time it's still shonen. So it's like being shonen doesn't de-elevate something. Just because something is shonen doesn't necessarily make it entry level, or like bad. Or it doesn't necessarily make it pleb shit. Because like, and I don't like that term really, but like some of my favorite anime ever are like shonen, like Hajime no Ippo, Hunter x Hunter, like we just mentioned. Shit, I'm actually gonna have to pull up my list because I forget some of the anime that I watch.
Hey, at what
But
point does it become not shonen? Like, what's
well, it's a little bit hard to explain because the classification originally comes from like what manga magazine they're published in. So like the original manga is like published in like Shonen Jump, which like this is just an example. So let's say you have like Naruto, right? Or One Piece. One Piece is a good example because it's still pretty like lighthearted. So it's like published in Shonen Jump magazine, which is targeted towards young boys, right? So you have all these young kids reading it, but then also you have people that grow older and keep reading Shonen Jump because a lot of the stories inside of it are just, even though they're targeted towards younger, you know, kids or teenagers, a lot of them still have themes that are applicable to like life in general. So that's why I say like some of the best anime of all time are shonen. But it's like, but for example, something like Berserk could not be shonen. It's too, it covers, I don't know, it's really hard to explain. It's just like something you have to understand.
It's too
You know,
graphic, or is it like covers too many dark
it's
topics?
it's yeah, well, a little bit. I mean, it's not, it's something, just because something covers dark topics doesn't necessarily make it a seinen either. Just like something being lighthearted or boyish doesn't make it a shonen. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I said, it's like a spectrum. So like something like Berserk, it's like obviously, yeah, you could never show the things that you show in Berserk in a shonen magazine. So it's like by that classification, then yeah, it couldn't be. But at the same time, being dark is not what makes Berserk adult. It's the themes, the darker themes, the the mature moments in the writing. Oh shit, my voice cracked really bad there. But it's just did you hear it? Was that bad?
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, that's good. Anyway, so it's just more so the feeling of it, it's like you can kind of feel this is more adult oriented, this is a more mature, or but at the same time, right, you get series that are like I said, like the later parts of Hunter x Hunter, which are very seinen like, and Attack on Titan, which is also very seinen like Attack on Titan basically starts off as a shonen but then transforms into basically a seinen like later on in the series. So it's like it's kind of hard to explain, but it's a so people commonly associate the distinction between maturity. That's what people usually associate it with, but I disagree with that. I think shonen can be very mature. So it's really kind of hard to explain.
Okay. So do you want to do your recommendation now, and we'll just kind of.
Yeah. So I am going to be recommending for my pick for next Sunday, a movie called I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. I've talked about this movie so much. It has a goofy name. Okay, I swear to fucking God, this throws off everyone. It has a goofy name, and so it makes people kind of be like, oh, okay, wow, that's kind of a weird name. That sounds kind of goofy. But this movie is one of the most fucking, like, beautiful, emotional journeys ever. Like, this is one of my favorite anime movies. Definitely my favorite romance in anime. Just period. Like, this movie is a must watch. It is beautiful. This movie is beautiful. Do not look up anything about it, Matt. Whatever you do, I will send you a link to watch it, or I'll send you something to help you find some place to watch it. But whatever you do, do not look up anything about this movie at all, because if you're spoiled on this movie, it is fucking terrible to be spoiled on this movie. Okay? So my recommendation is I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. It's just such a beautiful movie, and you have to watch it. So I can't say much else about it, but you'll see.
Okay.
Also, one more thing about it. When you watch it, make sure you have no distractions. Okay, you're gonna want to be like in a dark room. You're gonna want to be watching it on the TV. Okay, you're gonna want to be watching this high quality. Okay, this is a high quality movie, so you're gonna be you're gonna I'm just saying, this isn't a movie that you're gonna watch on your phone and then just be like, oh, okay, well, time to fucking, go to bed. This is a movie that's like when you watch it, okay, you're done watching it and you're like, wow, that was beautiful. That was beautiful. And you're gonna be like, I'm so glad I watched this in high quality, so I could appreciate the whole thing. That's just how good it is. Okay, I'm done ranting. I'm a fucking idiot and I talk about stupid shit, but you know.
So, in conclusion,
It's good.
Let's just say that this movie, Mary and the Witch's Flower, is very average. And it's not super great. I think it's good for some audiences. It's just not going to be for everyone. So, okay, let's say bye, Ty. Okay, I think he's dead.
Oh God, you're cutting out. Oh God, you're cutting out so
dead.
bad.
I think he's dead.
No, I'm back. I'm back. Can you hear me? No, you're fucking with me now.
No. Yeah, you're back.
Okay, wait. Okay,
Is there something
okay.
you want to say?
Um, yeah. Mary and the Witch's Flower is like you said, average. You could watch it or you could not watch it. It's not really, you know.
Okay. Is that all? Is that all?
Yeah,
You
that's
just
all.
repeated what I said.
That's it.
You just repeated what I said.
Oh well, there we go. I guess that shows subconsciously how average the movie is.
Okay. Say bye, Ty. Say bye, Ty.
See ya. Bye bye.